I was recently asked to share my thoughts about immature and emotionally unavailable men, and I'm going to answer this question, but not in the way that I find disrespectful and straight up disempowering when it comes to the possibilities of what men could be. I find it far more inspiring to speak to the strength of the masculine soul rather than looping around on the lower levels of psychological immaturity, which is tragically what we're seeing in the majority of conversation around manhood on the internet right now. If you're familiar with books like The Way of the Superior Man by David Data and the Jungian psychology of the masculine archetypes king, warrior, magician, and lover, then this is a video that will capture your attention because I'm not going to be speaking about this information alone. We're actually going to be pushing it to a bit of a higher level. We're going to be answering the question of emotional development and mature masculinity with a perspective which really is not spoken about too often and is actually, unfortunately, very commonly misunderstood. Because you don't need to go all the way into integrating your feminine and reading books like Goddesses in Every Woman or the opposite Jungian classic Women Who Run with Wolves to understand your inner feminine or the woman within. That can be relevant for a certain type of man at a certain moment in their journey, but the conversation isn't useful for men who want to build their masculinity without feeling like they need to become more like a woman. So that's a trap that we're going to avoid today. This is the first conversation of two conversations that I'm releasing this week, one for men and masculinity, one for women and femininity. I've linked that just up here on the screen and also at the end of this video. We're going to talk about masculine receptivity and feminine assertion. We're going to play with language and we're going to play with the higher bands of psychological development for men. Typically, in a nutshell, masculine development up till the age of about 35 on average is about assertion. It's the phallic masculine principle of expressing and exerting yourself in a way in the world where hopefully your power is generative, it moves in a linear direction, and it creates great benefits for everyone who comes in contact with your expressive, masculine, grounded force. That is more or less what a book like King, Warrior, Magician, Lover will bring you. You get to be a man. You get to be a man in the world who's grounded in his truth, and you get to have all of the typical benefits of masculinity. I agree with all of this, and we'll take it to the extra level. You don't need to integrate your feminine to become a receptive man. I'm going to bring forwards a few examples to go into this, and if I stumble for a moment or two, it's because it's such a misunderstood topic that I'm very aware that every single sentence I say might have someone going into the comment section and saying that I'm overgeneralizing or that's not what masculinity is about. Just bear with me. The principle of masculine receptivity, in complement to masculine assertion, the phallic principle, might be a bit more feminine from one area of understanding, but it's actually still a very masculine trait. Just before filming this video, I went for a walk in my local woods, and the receptive principle for me as a man means I can look at the trees and smell the fallen leaves on the ground and be nourished by nature. It's the same when it comes to dating or romance. There's no point being the incredibly alpha, get shit done kind of guy and getting the woman of your dreams if you're lying in bed together and she's on your chest and you can't feel the warmth of her hand right on your heart because you're not receptive to what she's trying to give you. It's the same with children. One day, or maybe right now, you'll have children in your life. And if you're not receptive to their energies, to what they need from you, and of course to their love and their admiration and the respect that they have for you as their father, you're missing out massively. And I'll give one more example. It's the same in your spiritual life. How many times do you hear stories of men who get a vision, or they feel inspired, or they have a connection with God? They're receptive to that higher energetic pull. The monk who goes and meditates on the mountain, he is receiving. In the same way that if you read a book, you are receiving from the pages. If you eat a meal, you are receiving the nourishment of that meal. And if you have a higher level of consciousness when you're eating, you can see that energetic interplay. You can see how you're truly the receiver of something which is a gift. And it spans out across the board. Masculine assertion is a truly important moment for any young man who's going through initiation. He needs to learn how to exert himself into the world. He needs to learn the healthy phallic principle. We don't need to go into biological anatomy and genitalia in specific, but you get what I'm saying. The majority of men, and I mean the vast majority of men, will be healthier, happier, more confident, and more capable of doing good in their communities when they feel solid and upright, like another part of them which also enjoys the exact same sensation and expression. But there comes a moment when it's time to be a little bit more fluid and to not need to be the singular focus of the energetic expression which is yourself. You need to receive, and to receive from community, to receive from your lover, to receive from your family, and to receive from God. If you want to go into a business context, I'm going to give many different examples in this video. I'm going to keep it short, but many different examples to hopefully just land in your heart. A truly powerful leader in any industry will make assertive decisions. He will have the classic masculine expression, but the truly conscious, high-level leader will be receptive to feedback from their team. They'll be receptive and really tuned in to the market. They'll be receptive to whatever niche they're in and be able to receive and flow. They won't be rigid, they won't be fixed, they will have an integrated receptivity. I may be making the same point repeatedly, unnecessarily. You don't need to go all the way into the feminine archetypes to learn what it means to complement your masculinity with something which is truly, by my perception and by my experience, some of the most rewarding work that men can do. When you're an artist, when you're a creative, you receive vision, you receive inspiration, and if you're lucky, once more, you will receive something like a godly moment of service-driven power, where you know that you are smaller than something that's larger than you. You don't need to go into the Christian faith, you don't need to go into any particular faith, but it is the common thread that I've experienced and many people will experience, where they surrender to God, whatever that means to them, or they surrender to a mission. That's more of a masculine kind of impulse right there. I mean, if you're a man listening to this and you don't get, a bit of a hard on at the idea of surrendering to a mission, all of the heroic films that we love, the hero who dies for his squad, the king or the queen that goes out into war and dies for their army. Doesn't need to be just men. The masculine principle, of course, can express in women. Primarily, the conversation gets stale where we talk about the balance between the two. I don't want to go into that. It's really boring, to be honest. You understand you're an adult. I'm actually going to leave it right here. We don't need to go all the way to the feminine to learn to be receptive as a man. And if you want to know what it means to be an emotionally mature man, then consider what it might mean to be a little bit more receptive without losing your assertion. To put yourself into the world with consciousness, with love, compassion, clarity, and strength, but also be receptive to the many beauties of life. Because if you're not receptive to life, are you even living? The breath is right there. We're always receiving, and we're always exerting. Men will primarily feel their best when they're exerting. Women will primarily feel their most at home when they are receiving. That's why they tend to be far more sensual and far more plugged in to their emotions. But it doesn't mean that men cannot have their own very deep emotional connection with self, with other, and with the wider beauty that is this experience. If you've enjoyed what I've said here, go watch over on the feminine video. It's basically the same, but completely flipped over, and I know it will help. I'll see you over there.